Alright, welcome to the Gig'em 247 podcast. We're doing this video style today. Got a little bit of something I want to show you guys that I was working on during the spring game. A little bit kind of a different way of looking at the quarterbacks and just saying so-and-so looked good, so-and-so didn't. And this is what I was working on during the game. So you guys can kind of take a look at this. We're going to do throw charts on each of the quarterbacks, starting with Johnny Manziel. Now, obviously, blue lines are completions, red lines incompletions. The lines that don't start behind the center were on rollouts. So you can kind of see a couple of those on the right side of the screen. The first thing you notice from Johnny, and one thing we're going to be talking about, is overall arm strength. You know, something that's the coaches talked a little bit about, not being that important, but fans have still debated. And the reason it's not overly important is because for overall arm strength, it's not really that important for the A&M quarterbacks. They don't throw the ball downfield a whole lot. The most important factor is trying to get it on target. To be fair to Johnny, I went ahead and circled a couple of drops just so you guys kind of know where those were. Those were on passes that weren't necessarily drops that were his fault, but we're going to go ahead and include them because they were incompletions, and throughout the season we're going to be doing that. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of circle those for you guys so y'all could at least see what, again, to be fair to Johnny on some of his throws that were maybe a little bit better than what the stats indicate. The one to the right, especially to LaKendrick Williams, should have gone for a touchdown, but LaKendrick dropped that one. But back to the arm strength, what I was talking about. The most important factor isn't so much getting it downfield as it is getting it to the right spot and getting it accurately there in a hurry. And that's why when we talk about arm strength for the A&M quarterbacks, we're talking about the ability to deliver it on target and get it there quick. And you can kind of see from this chart exactly why we're saying that, because they only threw downfield, even though they threw about 50 times on Saturday, they only threw it past about the 10-yard mark 3 or 4 times. Now again, this is where the ball is in the air and where the receiver catches it, not where he runs to necessarily. So that's why a lot of these passes are between about 5 and 10 yards, and even shorter than that on some screens and things like that. So when you're looking at the quarterbacks, keep that in mind as far as it's not about who throws the best ball 30 yards. It's about who throws the best ball at 10 yards. Who can get the ball out quickly, and, you know, are they getting it to exactly the right spot? Are receivers slowing down? Are receivers able to hit the ball in stride? That's what's important, and that's really what we're looking for, especially trying to fit into this offense, which is why, quite frankly, I wasn't really impressed with either performance on Saturday by either Manziel or by Showers. I think they both struggled in some areas that we're going to talk about. For Manziel, the big problem that he has right now is throwing it to the left side of the field. Now this is a chart broken down by the halves of the field, and as you can see, he is much better throwing it to the right. Now that's not that surprising because he's right-handed, but it is something to notice. I mean, on the left side of the field, he was something like 3 of 10 for the game, which is just obviously not going to get the job done. Now, granted, a couple of those were his drops, and again, this doesn't take into account how windy it is, but this is kind of a growing trend that we've noticed throughout the spring, and something I kind of want to show you guys. Obviously, in the fall, we'll try these things a little more for games. On games, we can go back and watch them, so we'll be able to more accurately do this, but this is kind of a quick way of doing it just for the spring game. We're going to kind of talk about Jameill as well. But like I said, if you kind of look at how much more accurate Manziel is to his right, especially running to his right, that's really where all of his big plays come from. And again, that's not overly surprising because he is right-handed. But let's go ahead and take a look at Jameill. One thing you're going to notice right away is he threw a whole lot more passes on Saturday, and he's a whole lot more accurate overall, at least was in this game. Again, down the center of the field, he had some big plays, and he had some big plays to the flats, and that's what we're looking for. Those accuracy on those screens, those guys are getting the ball quickly, he's firing it out there, they're catching it in stride and hitting up the field, and that's what's going to be important for Jameill. But again, you'll notice not that many passes over 8 yards, which is why, again, we talk about just getting the ball out quickly, and that's what he's done a good job of this spring, and really why he stood out above Johnny and the other guys is that ability to get the ball out there. Now, especially, you notice, especially behind the line of scrimmage at about 2 and 3 yards, he's incredibly accurate. You know, the guys aren't having to slow down to catch passes. They're getting up the field, and that's really what this offense is all about. If you watch Houston, you see Patrick Edwards catch those passes and get upfield in a hurry and get extra yards after the catch. So while some of the stat numbers like throwing for 4,000 yards and stuff like that may happen, a lot of that is because guys may have easy runs afterwards, and that's really what both quarterbacks need to work on, is completing those easy throws. Now, again, with Jameill, like Johnny, you're going to notice he's a whole lot better to the right side of the field. In fact, to the left, Jameill threw less than 50%, but to the right side of the field, as you'll see right here, he only had about 4 incompletions. And when he steps and looks to the right and gets that throw out, he's incredibly accurate, and that's going to be where you see a lot of those screen plays. A lot of those big plays are going to come from the right side of the field, especially, you know, if they can get the hash, if they can get the ball in the hash on the left side and make a play out there throwing it out to the flats. But one thing we have noticed with Jameill on this next chart is two problem areas, really. And that's at about between 30 and 60 degrees on the left and right side of the field. He has a tendency to misthrow those towards the sideline. He throws a lot of passes wide of the target. And these are passes that can turn into big yardage plays. You know, you'll have guys coming across the middle of the field. If you hit them in stride, they can catch it and cut up the field. Guys like Uzomah Nwachukwu, Ryan Swope, Kendrick McNeil, and those kind of players. That's where a lot of their big plays are going to come from. And those are throws that Showers has also been inaccurate on. And that's something we've noticed, especially in the spring game. He missed on several what should be fairly easy throws across the middle of the field. So as we go into the fall, you know, before we count Johnny Manziel completely out of it, that's kind of what we want to see from Showers, is those throws. But overall, obviously, he's been much more accurate and much more consistent behind the center, you know, throwing the ball in pretty much every area of the field except that middle zone on the right-hand side. That's where Johnny has a little bit of an advantage right now. But, again, that is just one game. We're going to talk about more of it as the season goes along, but this is something I wanted to try out and kind of see what you guys thought. So let me know what you think. We'll be doing this more often. Hopefully in the fall, when we have the ability to go back and rewatch games, we're going to do some run charts and see where players are running the ball better. So thanks for joining me. We'll do this again.